The headache rack had a bend in it. The pipe was pulled out. It looked ugly. We just want it to be straight. Most likely we're never going to be lifting stuff above us and have to worry about having things crashing over the top of us. But we wanted the pipe to be straight, re-welded. So we just put the strap on it, pulled it in, and we gave it some heat. Some people might say that we took the temper out of the steel. I don't think it's tempered steel. I think it's just structural steel. And when we did that, hopefully when we release this, it doesn't just spring back out to where it was before. Instead of trying to straighten this and pound it straight, you can see how thick this is. And we just cut this chunk out. Now we'll go higher. We'll get a straight piece. And after we bevel it and weld it and grind it, and it's painted, you won't even see it. So in order to get this, to know where perfect would be, I just put a hose clamp around that, and I'm going to use a grinder and come right up to the hose clamp, and that way I'll make sure I've got a piece that's going to fit in there and not have a touching point here and a big gap when we weld it. We'll bevel both sides. It should be welded strong. So if we pull it straight, I'm coming up with 17 3/4 piece of steel. They'll cut it beautifully at, Speedy Metals, what we have here.
For some reason that bolt's backed out down there. I don't know if this plate is threaded. I'm going to guess that it is. We're going to see if we can just tighten it up.
Okay. Yep. I almost blew a gasket on that one.
We got to get a wall thickness, so we're cleaning it up for the caliper. Swiss made brown and sharp. 1.95. What is the wall thickness of that?
0.15.
0.15. We got our new piece of pipe here. And the closest thing I could find dimensionally was Schedule 40 pipe. It's got a seam in it there. So we ground it out on this end. We ground this out too. ODs are really close. And here's another chunk of pipe. This is actually too big to fit in either one. So we have to turn this down on the lathe. I might have a pipe center for the lathe we can put on the other end. And then turn it down to the diameter we need. And we'll just cut the excess off that we were holding it with. I gotta grind this seam out here for this pipe center to work. Trying to get it towards the pass here.
Wish I had one of these. You only use it once in a while though.
Oh, but when you need it, it's almost invaluable. You can really make some custom stuff with it. It's a good size one too. Any smaller is too small. This one does have the gearbox on it too. Which I wouldn't buy a lathe with change gears. That's ridiculous. It's got to have a gearbox.
So you're probably wondering why we're even doing this, but when you're sticking one pipe into another, and you don't get them exactly tight, so it could be touching on one side and have a gap on the other. This thing, you drill holes on the side and plug weld it, so when you shove it in, it doesn't slide down the other pipe. It'll go in half one way, half the other. You could plug weld up on top also. But when you're welding and we bevel both sides and you're laying in a nice strong weld, it won't blow through, you're going up against another piece of metal. The whole thing will be joined together and be really strong. So this kind of tubing was a seamed weld and it bulged out, so I had to grind that out. And actually it's pretty damn, that's as far down as I ground it.
I think I got a crotch center. We'll drill those holes in that pipe on this lathe. Look at it perfectly centered. Here's a crotch center. Wish I had a little bigger one. That's what we got. Paul will be operating the tailstock.
Yeah, but this is unsafe as well. Works just as good as a drill press.
Yes, I mean, it's kind of the same thing in a way. These are nice sharp bits too. They're Kodiak brand made in the USA.
I only die grinded down so far.
This is the insertion shot.
So once it's welded, we cut it off right there, and then we'll shove that in. We didn't even weld this yet, but I only die grinded out so far and then shoved in there. Then you can see how we got this. We just estimated 17 3/4, and we knew this was at an angle. And when I cut this, even if it goes on the bandsaw and it's on an angle, I can turn it to where it's at our advantage, because it does need to kind of be beveled in the back to come in.
I'm not even sure how many weeks it's been since we fit these pieces up. I'm gonna weld them up today. What I'm noticing is I put a straight edge on this tube. There's still some bend in it. I should have cut it up about another 6 inches. I think it's gonna be pretty much just eyeballing this to get it as straight looking as possible. It's not really critical. Once it's welded up, we're gonna suck this in with a ratchet strap.
We're gonna let that cool off. Or first we gotta grind it, and then we're gonna pull it back, and then we'll weld it where it belongs. And then the roll bar won't look as ratty. That'll be painted black later on. I wanna make it so nobody even knows we ever did this job.
I want to get it kind of centered like this. We're going to try this diagonally.
It's going right in. About 1/4 inch back. One more crank.
Oh,
That's it.
that's what all that ratchet strap's got in her. That's what we got there. Got all the way around it actually. Looks like that was painted yellow at one point.
Yeah. This will keep it from rusting until we get around to the project of doing this whole thing. And then it looks newer than the rest of it, but we didn't want to keep on going. That'll be at a later date. And we'll clean everything up, paint this thing, brand new colors, put new decals on it. It's just gonna look good.
He told me to leave it on there overnight so we don't hit the paint. Now here he's pulling it off.
I'm too picky. If you've ever had a situation where you were going through a parking lot at a grocery store or something, and you walk by and somebody's got a trailer hitch hanging out, and you can hit your leg, it hurts. We don't want this taking up space, so while it's not being used, we got to make a place to store it. And we'll make a box here. And make some tabs off of here. This is the closest you can keep it.
Here's a look at that. It's beneath the top of the thing, so it's got the headroom. Yeah, it's not in the way there, and then you got it with you if you need it. There she is painted up. This hangs out just a little bit. I suppose I could get a 90-degree one or make a pin with a flat on this side.